Welcome back into another episode of The Whistle. Let's just hop right into it, not wasting any of your time. We got two segments today for this playoff-themed episode. We got Power Surge, which is basically my power rankings of all of the teams, and then my playoff predictions of the games. We got a wild card weekend coming up here, and I'm actually very excited to get into these matchups, and I want to hear your guys' opinions on who's going to win in the comments below. So, to start off, let's go into our Power Surge. Alright, so we got 14 teams in the playoffs. I've ranked all of them in terms of power and how good they are. So starting off in our number 14 slot, I have the Miami Dolphins. Now look, Miami has shown great potential throughout the season, but Tua's already out, and they put up 9 points against the Jets, legitimately. Do I need to say any more? I don't think I do. Look, Miami, whoever they play at quarterback to, they're going up against the Bills, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but I just don't think that they would be able to beat any of the other teams in the playoffs at their current state. With Tua, there would be a lot up for discussion, but Tua's obviously not playing. So that's why they're at my number 14 slot. Going into our 13 ranked team, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Now, why do I have the Baltimore Ravens? Well, it's all Lamar Jackson based. Same situation with Miami, but Lamar Jackson has a better chance to play. It is 4:35 Thursday afternoon as the time of I'm recording this, and there's absolutely been zero news on Lamar Jackson's status for the game. He has not practiced, so he's probably doubtful. So that's why I have him at 13. If he was ranked, if he was going to be playing, the ranking would be definitely different. But he's not playing. I don't know who they're going to have at quarterback. Some bum probably. And their defense is amazing. Don't let me forget about the defense. But other than that defense, their offense is absolutely incapable to do pretty much anything without Lamar Jackson. So that's why I have them at 13. Going into number 12, I have the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Seattle Seahawks have been in a downward spiral pretty much for the last couple of weeks of the season. Now, they did win the winnable games, right, as they should, and they made the playoffs. So it should be interesting to see how they combat playing the 49ers for the third time this season. But I don't think that they could beat any other team in the playoffs, NFC or AFC. But I definitely think they could beat the Ravens and Miami without their starting quarterbacks. Now going into my 11th ranking, the last team outside my top 10 is the New York Giants. Now, the Giants are very confusing because I think they can beat any team, but they also can get whooped by any team. And Daniel Jones has shown improvements, not leaps, but steps of improvements. Saquon had a great bounce back season. Should be interesting to see his contract discussions in the off season. But this team just doesn't shout playoff win to me. It doesn't bounce off the page. It doesn't radiate. They don't have like an elite QB. They don't have like an elite part of their team. Right? Saquon, he's a great running back, but is he elite? Receivers definitely not. Quarterback definitely not. Offensive line has improved, but no. If you look at their defense, they do have Kayvon Thibodeaux, who is a pretty stellar edge rusher, D-end. So it's all up. But other than that, on their defense, there's no real main playmakers, unless I'm forgetting some. So I think the Giants could beat the Seahawks, Ravens, Miami. That's why I have them ranked 11, but I don't think they could beat any of the other teams. All right, let's crack into our top 10. Let's go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's absolutely crazy that I'm putting them here. And they're the only team on this list with a losing record. And they made the playoffs, and they're at 10. Now, look, I could go down the easy route and say, oh, Tom Brady. I'm not going to. And the reason why I'm not going to is because that is overshadowed. That is over-amplified for this team. You looked at Tom Brady's stats this season. They're not stellar, right? And you're saying, oh, but he's Tom Brady. He'll win in the playoffs. Are you sure about that? The reason they would win in the playoffs is because their defense. Now, their defense hasn't been anything amazing, but it hasn't certainly been anything trash, right? And I think when you watch those games where he came back against the Rams, came back against the Saints, it's really their defense has shown that they can get a stop when they need to. And that's what really interests that's something for me that's really eye-catching, is how good this defense can be in a moment that they need it. So that's why I have them at 10, ranked above the Giants, Seahawks, Ravens, and Miami, and having a Hall of Fame quarterback with that experience at least, right? That can never hurt. Regardless of how he plays, I think that situation for that quarterback, Tom Brady, is going to help in certain spots, most definitely. And I don't think anyone can argue against that. All right, moving along. We got the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Minnesota is a great talent team, but they don't really bring it together, right? And it's very interesting to see because you got Justin Jefferson, best wide receiver in the NFL, Kirk Cousins, an above average quarterback, regardless of how you think about it. Defense, that's my question mark. That's easily my question mark for this team is the defense. They haven't been game breaking, but they also haven't been pushovers, right? In the games that they got destroyed, Green Bay, Dallas, Philadelphia, their defense has been lackluster, but so is their offense. So I think it's more of a team crumble thing, and I'd love to see the Vikings defense play when everything's on the line. All right, moving into our number 8 spot, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the most interesting team this season, and I don't think it's up for debate because they were the worst and they have a chance to be the best, right? And the storyline is great and all. You got a fantastic quarterback. I think everyone's putting their money on Trevor Lawrence to be a great elite quarterback next season, and he's definitely taken that leap and has shown signs of doing that. I think he's been an above average quarterback this year, especially late, but hasn't shown it all year round. But I'm looking forward to seeing that next season. But what makes Jacksonville so unique in their spot is, one, they've proven to win an elimination game, right? That final game of the season against Tennessee, even though Tennessee lost 7 straight, they still proved to beat a divisional opponent at home in a very important deciding game for their season. And I think that goes a long way, not just for the quarterback, who's going to get his first playoff experience, but as a team as a whole, right? Doug Peterson has won a Super Bowl, so he has that Super Bowl pedigree that everyone raves about when they're head coach. Has your coach won a Super Bowl? Has your coach been to a Super Bowl, right? But I think that translates to this team, and they're kind of playing with all their chips in, because if they lose, oh well. But if they win, and you can't say that about the Vikings or the Buccaneers. If the Vikings and Buccaneers lose in the first round, their season's already trashed, right? Now you could say the Bucs, oh, they had a losing record, you can't. Well, then that season's a wash anyway. Tom Brady might be leaving, right? For Minnesota, you're 13-4, 12-5, I don't know. I forgot their record. I think they were 13-4. And you don't win a playoff game, that would be an absolute heartbreaker. But for Jacksonville, you have a winning record, you won the division. That's already a success. You're hosting a playoff home game in the first time since 2017. So if they can somehow beat the Chargers, which I'll, again, get into later, but that would be absolutely, and I think they can. I think they can beat any team in the NFL right now on any given Sunday. Now it's kind of similar, like let's say they play the Chiefs, right? They play the Chiefs 10 times. I think they might win only twice, maybe 3 times, but they still have a chance to win. Meanwhile, if Miami were to currently play the Chiefs right now, Chiefs would win every single time. So that's why I have Jacksonville at 8. Going into number 7, I have the Dallas Cowboys, which is probably the most disappointing team on this list besides the Vikings. And here's why. Right? The beginning of the season for this team had very low expectations right after that Tampa Bay loss, right? On Sunday night, you go to Twitter, you're seeing everyone giving up on the Cowboys, saying, oh, it's tank, Dak's done, this team's done, the season's over. But actually, what makes it super interesting for this team is that they've rallied, right? Their defense was amazing. Their defense was absolutely like Hall of Fame level defense in the first half of the season. And they were playing without Dak, and they were kind of making up for that. But then when Dak got back, you saw this switch in this team. And it was pretty much right away when Dak got back. The defense didn't get as many sacks. The defense gave up some yards. The defense started to give up points. And you slowly started to see that throughout the season. And now it's turned from this defense-oriented team to this offensive-oriented team that they need to be in a shootout to be able to win a game, right? And I think the game that's very important to look at this season is the Jacksonville game. They scored 40 points and lost. That's not a Super Bowl caliber defense. First off, they were up 17, right? And now you can't necessarily blame that on one position group. But I think it's super interesting to look at. They were up 17. So the defense, all you got to do is pretty much play conservative and make them earn it. Now, Dallas did turn over the ball. But the defense really showed that, first off, they're exhausted, right? The offense has to help them out. And they just can't get stops. They became turnover reliant, which was their deal last year, right? But that's opportunity-wise. They rely on those turnovers to get stops. That's what happened against the Eagles, right? I don't think they forced the Eagles with Gardner Minshew to punt. I don't think they forced one punt. They did get 4 turnovers, which you can say, oh, they've earned those. Like they earned 2 of those interceptions, but they got gifted a fumble. They got gifted pretty much both fumbles, right? They could say they forced it. But when you rely on turnovers, that's not a good defense. That's really not a good defense. And that's why I think if they were to play the teams that I already said, they would win. But I don't think they could blow out any of these teams. Even Miami. I think they would still struggle against Miami for a little bit. That's just the pedigree of this team. And I've spent way too much time talking on this team. But that's why this team is so confusing, because I think they could win the Super Bowl, but they could also get blown out in the first round. All right, moving to number 6, I have the Chargers, which is kind of the same thing, right? And I think the Chargers, they have a better quarterback. You could say they have better weapons. They got more playmakers on defense. Their offensive line has question marks. But what interests me about this Chargers team is the whole pedigree against Justin Herbert, right? And the reason why I like the Chargers more than the other teams is, one, their highest potential, right? Because you got Mike Williams. If he's healthy, this team is pretty good, right? Pretty almost unbeatable. But without him, it's like a missing piece. And I could say this about the Ravens and the Miami, right? They're missing a quarterback. But there's this receiver holds so much for the potential of this offense, whereas then Justin Herbert gets reliant on Keenan Allen and gets reliant on Austin Eckler in the receiving game. So it should be interesting to see if Mike Williams doesn't play, how will the other guys step up? Because if they step up well enough for them to even escape round 1, this team has a lot of potential. And the defense is getting their pieces back, right? Joey Bosa went down with another injury, but he just came back from an injury. So if he can get back, Khalil Mack has stepped up, right? Derwin James is still balling out because he's healthy. So this team has the playmakers, right? Now, if they could just add them up, because they've shown that they can be really good, but they also shown that they can underperform. All right, going to number 5. These are my elite contenders for the Super Bowl, I think. I think if you were to throw some money at them, the investment would be a good return. And the number 5, I have the Bills. Now, the Bills have shown to run the ball, which was a problem earlier in the season, right? They lacked the run game, but they've definitely improved on that. But it's also like they're too Josh Allen reliant in the run game as well. They rely on Josh Allen too much to become a playmaker, right? Their defense has suffered some injuries, right? And I think that could show in a potential high offensive matchup, right? Because I think their offense will be fine enough, but it's also like if they get stopped once, is that the game type thing. I think their offense has so much their offense might be the most consistent in the NFL. And it's very shocking to say because the run game has come on, but they're too Josh Allen reliant. That's how consistent I think Josh Allen is. Now look, he's had some bad games this season, but I think when it matters most, you'll see the best of Josh Allen. So that's why I have them at number 5. Now at number 4, I have the Chiefs, which is pretty much their direct competitor. And now the reason why I have the Chiefs a little higher is because actually I want to rephrase myself. I think Patrick Mahomes is the most consistent quarterback in the NFL. That's why he's the best, right? But also I just like the head coaching more. I like the coaching more of this team. And the reason why is because their defense has not been world beaters this entire year, yet they're still like a top 15 defense. Their defense just has to play secondary to their offense, which is crazy to say, but I think their defense has definitely shown that, right? Now, they haven't necessarily beat any elite teams this season. They lost to the Bengals and they lost to the Bills. So it's like, can they beat that elite team? You know, is it Patrick Mahomes related, right? Are centric? Are they really they rely on Patrick Mahomes too much? And I think with the loss of Tyreek Hill, this is where it's going to show. It didn't really show in the first half in the season, right? Because they still got the first seed. But it's going to show in the playoffs. And I don't think they can beat the 3 teams that are ahead of them, but I do think they can beat the Bills in a matchup because that's kind of an offensive matchup. But I think that Patrick Mahomes can outplay Josh Allen, as he's proven before in the playoffs. All right, top 3 teams. It pains me to say this, but I got the Philadelphia Eagles at number 3. Look, they got top 5 defense. They can have a top 5 offense when Jalen Hurts is available and healthy, right? And they got a great wide receiver core to back up that. And I think in the playoffs, you need your wide receiver core to elevate their play style, right? I don't think you can be reliant on one wide receiver because that's a recipe for disaster because then you can double him. And then if they get too centric on one receiver in the pass game, it's wraps, right? So that's why I think that the Eagles are better than the Chiefs is because they have the best wide receiver core in the NFL, and I don't think it's up for debate. Actually, it is, and I'll get to that team. But I think A.J. Brown is a easy wide receiver 1. Devonta Smith has shown that he could be wide receiver 1. And who's the other guy? Watkins? No. They have a third wide receiver. I think it's Watkins. And they've all shown that they can make plays. And that's why I think the Eagles have a very good edge on whoever they play in the second round and even in the NFC Championship. Because if you can get your second wide receiver to really become the X factor in the game, you're in a great position. If you have to rely on your first receiver to put up 150 yards in your pass game to have a chance, that's not going to be a recipe for a victory. That's just not. Now, my number 2 team, this was kind of a toss-up, but there's a reason, and I'll say my top 2 teams right now. At number 2, I have the 49ers, and at number 1, I have the Bengals. Now, the reason why I have the 49ers below the Bengals is simply the quarterback. And it's kind of a cop-out to say this, but I just like Joe Burrow got to a Super Bowl, right, in the second season. Absolutely phenomenal. And he's got way better. Now, here's where the interesting part comes in. You look at the offenses. Forget the defenses. I probably should have the 49ers above the Bengals because their defense is just way better. But I think if you look at these two teams, and if you were to play them, each other, head on, I think the Bengals would win. And it's not because they have better firepower on offense or their defense. I think it's just the pedigree of the team, right? Because if the 49ers offense somehow just fails, collapses, their defense can bail them out. But I think that's when the Bengals would attack, and their offense is really consistent. Like, they really popped off these last couple of weeks. And they've also proven to beat elite teams, whereas the 49ers haven't really beat anybody elite with Brock Purdy. They have beaten the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They destroyed them, but that's Tampa Bay. They have a losing record, right? I think this could easily be a Super Bowl matchup. So that's why I have them at 1. It's more like 1A, 1B type thing. That's how good I think these teams could be. And if they don't make the Super Bowl, it's a failure of a season. Even with the backup quarterback for the 49ers. If you've seen the way they've played, they've been absolutely dominant. It would be an absolute shame if they don't make the Super Bowl. Same thing with the Bengals. You were there last year. Why can't you be there this year? What's holding you back? You could say, oh, we didn't get the first seed. Okay, play on the road. You played on the road last year and you won. You can play on the road this year and win. That's my final spiel on my power rankings. Which teams are surging up? Which teams are surging down? Let me know what you agree with in the comments below. Call me out. I'll go over them real quick. Starting from 14 Miami, 13 Baltimore, 12 Seattle, 11 New York Giants, 10 Tampa Bay, 19 Minnesota, 9 Minnesota, 8 Jacksonville, 7 Dallas, 6 LA Chargers, 5 Buffalo, 4 Kansas City, 3 Philadelphia, 2 San Francisco, and 1 Cincinnati. So let me know what you guys agree. All right, here is the real money. Here's where I'm gonna make my money on this one. This will be like, oh my gosh, this guy's really good. It's my playoff predictions, right? So let's just hop into it. There's no real explanation. Obviously, the first seeds, Philadelphia Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs, have a bye, so they're not playing this week. Regardless of how you think the AFC whole thing has dealt with, obviously Kansas City has played well enough to have a chance at the first seed, and with unfortunate situation with DeMar Hamlin, Kansas City Chiefs have got that first seed, even though I do think it should be Buffalo. But anyways, let's just hop into it. We'll start with the NFC side. Do that in the first matchup. I'm going to try to do this in chronological order. I think it's San Francisco versus Seattle. Now, as much as I would think that Seattle would have, like, oh my gosh, we lost to them twice, we have a chance to really beat them this time, the third time's the charm, we got this. I'm just going to agree. I think if you look at the majority of the opinions online, San Francisco is absolutely going to blow Seattle out. I don't think it's going to be close, and it's kind of a shame because I think for a divisional rival, or for an in-division playoff matchup, you would think that this would absolutely be an electric, but the 49ers and the Seahawks are on two completely journeys this season, right? The 49ers lost their quarterback, but they've been having absolutely the best roster in the NFL, right? And then if you look at Seattle, they shouldn't be here. They should be holding a top 3 pick right now, and yet they're not because they've played so well. Geno Smith has a resurgence in his career. If Geno Smith wins this game, I don't know what his contract looks like, but he might be in for a payday. Now, I don't think he's a free agent, but after next season, if next season goes similar to this season, if they win one playoff game, it would be absolutely defying the odds. But I just don't see that happening, so that's why I have San Francisco beating Seattle. Now, going to our next matchup, Minnesota is hosting the New York Giants. Now, this has been a very popular take I've seen online, but I'm picking the Giants in this game. Now, yes, I ranked Minnesota above the New York in my power rankings, but here's where you need an upset, right? And I think this first wildcard round is lacking upsets in terms of my picks. And the reason why I have New York over Minnesota is because New York is playing with all their chips in, and that's a very dangerous thing to be going up against. They have nothing to lose. If New York loses this game, they'd be like, oh my gosh, we finally made the playoffs. Brian Dable looks like to be the guy. Daniel Jones, we might have to re-sign him. He's been playing well this season. But if you're Minnesota, you're like, we've won 13 games, and we've had close to a negative point differential. That's not good, right? Now they've had a great year, right? But they're barely winning games, and they're getting crushed in games. So I think that's a sign of a fraudulent team. I don't want to call them frauds because they're a great team, but I think the Giants are going to be hungry for this victory. Meanwhile, Minnesota's just going to try to survive. So that's why I have the New York Giants beating the 3-seed Minnesota Vikings. All right, in the final NFC matchup, we have the Baltimore. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Dallas Cowboys. This game's in Tampa, and I think that matters. If you looked online, you see that Jason Garrett said the thing about grass, but I'm a homer, and I can't pick against the Cowboys, even though I think they could easily lose this. This game's a coin flip. In my eyes, this game's a coin flip. This game is going to be a final score of like 27-24, 24-21. It's going to be a field goal game. And I think whoever has the ball last in this game, and I mean, clock has to expire while they have the ball or kicking a last-second field goal, will win the game. I don't think it'll be a blowout either way. I think it'll be around that range in the 20s where you have some offense but some defense. I think whoever has the ball first or whoever wins the turnover battle will win this game. And that's why I'm like, well, Dallas has been prone to turn over the ball. Yeah, but Tampa Bay has also been prone not to score. So it's like, I think if Dak Prescott doesn't throw an interception, the Cowboys win. That's my prediction. That's my lock for this weekend. If Dak Prescott does not throw an interception, doesn't matter if it's his fault or not. If he doesn't throw an interception, they will win the game. But if he does, I don't think it's very likely for them to win. Anyways, that's my NFC side. I have the Dallas Cowboys winning, the New York Giants winning, and the San Francisco 49ers winning. All right, going to the AFC side. I think in the first matchup, the Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the LA Chargers, and I have the Jaguars actually winning this game. And it's what I kind of said in my power rankings in terms of the importance of Mike Williams. It's very bad to be wide receiver one centric in the playoffs, and that's what I think Mike Williams is kind of resembles for this LA team. And it's not that Keenan Allen can't carry or Austin Eckler can't carry load or General Everett, I think that's his name, or some of the Palmer or number 5. Palmer's number 5. What's that number 1 guys? Carter. I think they are very capable wide receivers, but it's like, can they take the step up? Can another wide receiver on this team have 100 yards? I think Keenan Allen's clearly that guy, but if Mike Williams is out, then you become wide receiver 1 focus on Keenan Allen. That's what makes Keenan Allen so good this year. Obviously, he's been battling injury, right? But I think when you have Mike Williams there, Keenan Allen can go against the cornerback 2 or the cornerback 1, have one-on-one matchups and win those. So that's why I think Jacksonville wins, is because they have great wide receivers. And if you think, you're like, what? Zay Jones has been playing out of his mind. Christian Kirk has a great season. Evan Ingram has had a resurgence of his career. Their team is absolutely just underdogs, and they've kind of accepted that persona, right? And I think your attitude in the playoffs is the most important thing, right? If I were to look at playoff matchups last year, right, the Dallas Cowboys versus the 49ers, Dallas was trying to survive. If I'm looking at other ones, Arizona was just trying to survive. You think they were really going to beat LA? They were trying to survive that game. You look at who was the 7th seed that year. I'm trying to think. But if you look at the AFC side, you have Patriots, Bills. Patriots were just trying to survive. If you're just trying to survive in the playoffs, you're not going to win. right? And I think the Chargers aren't necessarily trying to survive. They finally made the playoffs, but I think they want to give Justin Herbert a chance to win. And to give your quarterback a chance to win in this it's kind of both teams are doing this. They want their quarterback to win this game. But I just think on the road is the reason. If this was in LA, I think I'd pick the Chargers, but it's on the road. That's why I'm picking Jacksonville. End of story. I'm not going to go over explain it. All right, next matchup, Cincinnati Bengals versus the Baltimore Ravens. I think if Lamar Jackson plays or doesn't play, it doesn't matter. I think the Bengals are, like I said, I think they're the top team in the NFL right now. And I just think this game being in Cincinnati helps tremendously, way more. Because if it was in Baltimore, I think I'd still pick Cincinnati, but I could easily see Baltimore winning if Lamar Jackson plays. If Lamar Jackson doesn't play, this game's 50-0. No, it'll be like 35-17 though. But if Lamar Jackson plays, I think I'll pick 35-24. I think it'll be closer, but Cincinnati will pull away. All right, in the final AFC matchup, the Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, round 3, and I think this one's not even going to be close. Tua's not playing, and Tua had a great game in that second round that they played each other and in the first round. But I just don't think this will be close. I'm not going to spend too much time. Buffalo wins in a wash. The Buffalo-Miami game is very similar, I think, to the 49ers-Seahawks game. All right. It's actually kind of the exact same, except 49ers won both, and Buffalo and Miami split in the regular season. Anyways, all right, going into my divisional round of matchups. So, since I have the Cowboys winning, 49ers winning, and the Giants winning, that means the Giants would go and travel to Philadelphia, and the Cowboys would travel to San Francisco. So, I have the favorites to win these games. I have the Eagles and the 49ers to win. I think if the Cowboys and the Giants win their first round, that'll be a successful playoff season, right? Because it's kind of two different seasons. One, the Giants have massively overachieved, and the Cowboys have met expectations. I don't think the Cowboys' expectations are to meet the NFC Championship just with their injuries that they suffered, right? And I think that the 49ers are just a well-oriented team, and I think that would be a very massive upset if that were to happen. But no. So that's why I have I am doing the divisional round as a little special for this. But that's why I have the Eagles and the 49ers winning. I just think those two are clearly better than their opponents, and they're at home. And the Eagles have a week off against the Giants. They'll beat the Giants. 49ers Cowboys will be a little closer, but the 49ers will still win it. They might win that game 23-17, I think. I think they will. The Cowboys' offense is on a downward spiral, and that's not good for this team, as they were offense-centric, like I explained before. All right, going to the AFC, you have you'd have the Jaguars winning, Bengals winning, and Bills winning. So that means Jacksonville would travel to Kansas City, and the Bengals would the Bengals would go on the road to the Buffalo Bills. So this game is actually really interesting to me because the Cincinnati-Buffalo game, because I think this is a coin flip game. Especially with Buffalo. If Buffalo was on the road, I would pick Cincinnati, no doubt. But since the Buffalo game's in Buffalo, I think it's very interesting, especially with how the weather could be. I'm picking Cincinnati to win this game, though. And this might be an upset take, a hot take. But I think Cincinnati is more of a offense. They're better offensively. And Buffalo, I think, and Cincinnati have the same defense in that sense. And I'm going to pick the better offensive team with the better weapons. Because it's all about my philosophy for this postseason is how well your wide receiver 2 does. And T. Higgins is a great wide receiver. Gabe Davis hasn't really stepped up that much this season, I think. I haven't looked at his stats, but I'm pretty sure what I've seen from the media, and you can't trust the media, but I think the media has kind of shied away from how good Gabe Davis is because he's not having a great year. So it should be interesting. And if you sign Cole Beasley, that means you need help in the wide receiver game, and that means Buffalo's in trouble. So that's why I have the Bengals winning, and then the Chiefs will hold the Jaguars. Fortunately for the Jaguars, I think this is where the run ends. Kansas City, I think, will kind of blow them out. Kansas City is just a way better offensive team, and their defense will step up and I think rattle Trevor Lawrence in his first road playoff game. And that's why I have the Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs meeting in the AFC Championship. And then the winner of that game is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Kansas City finally gets over the hump and beats them. And the reason why I think that is because, first off, they're at home. They lost last year. I don't think they lose again at home. And I think this one will come into kind of a shootout type deal. Maybe a slow start offensively for both teams, but I think this comes sort of a shootout in the second half of the game. And I think I trust Kansas City's offense with Patrick Mahomes more than I trust Joe Burrow. And it's not a knock on Joe Burrow, but I think we're underrating the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has not missed an AFC Championship game in his entire career when he started. Isn't that just insane? And I think, and we said this last year, right? And I was like, I'm not betting against Kansas City until I'm proven wrong. I'm not betting against them until I'm proven wrong. And I was proven wrong last year. But I'm not going to be proven wrong this year. I think Kansas City wins the AFC Championship and will go on to play in the Super Bowl against the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the reason why I have the San Francisco 49ers beating the Eagles is just because it's a better roster. And I think Kyle Shanahan is a better coach than Nick Sirianni. I think that's point blank period. And I think that if Jalen Hurts doesn't play the game of his life, their offense doesn't stand a chance. It's because I don't trust their run game against the 49ers offense or defense. I just don't trust it. And I think to beat the 49ers, you have to run the ball efficiently. If you don't run the ball efficiently, you're not going to beat them. I just don't. I just don't. Their defense scares me. That's how good it is. They scare me on how good they can really be. And they're healthy. Healthy both offensively and defensively. I don't think Debo's back yet. I think Debo might come back. And Debo might be back in terms of this game. So it's just a scary defense. And that's why I have the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers meeting in the Super Bowl. Now, obviously, this is before my playoffs actually start. So I don't know if this is going to happen. But these are my predictions before the playoffs start. I will update these via social media. So make sure to go follow me on All Jacked Up Sports on TikTok and Instagram. I think it's just AJU Sports. Anyways, make sure to go follow those. Links will be in the description. So make sure to go follow those as I will update for any game reactions because it's going to be a wild weekend for the wild card. All right. Now, finally, my Super Bowl prediction for these playoffs. You got the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think this is where the San Francisco 49ers do not get revenge for Super Bowl 54. And here's why. I think Brock Purdy is an excellent quarterback. And if they get him to the Super Bowl, he's going to be the starter next year over Trey Lance. I think so. And here's why. Brock Purdy has done his job excellently. And I think if he gets past Philadelphia, they will use all of their chips in that sense. They'll use all of their tricks in their back pocket. They'll pull out their special plays. They'll pull out this. I think with a week off, Kansas City can really focus on how, because I don't think they're worried about their defense. I think this game will be similar to the first Super Bowl, whereas maybe 49ers get up, but the Kansas City comes back. Because I think it's all about how Brock Purdy goes into the second half. Look, I'm not an expert. This is just my guess. Right. But I think if you were to look at this matchup, you have to take experience. And I hate experience. Because experience shouldn't help you win one game. Experience helped you on one play. Right? And I just don't trust San Francisco's defense enough to stop Patrick Mahomes with the week off. I just don't. If this was played right after AFC Championship or right after Championship weekend, I would think 49ers would have a much better chance. But I'm not picking against Patrick Mahomes against a rookie quarterback. I just can't do it. I can't bet against Andy Reid against a rookie quarterback after a bye. They have a week off. They've been to a Super Bowl before. Brock Purdy is going to see the light. I'm starting in the Super Bowl. And I don't think that'll necessarily get to him because he's got great teammates. But I just think the 49ers fall short again. And if they had Jimmy G, do I think they win this game? Maybe. Maybe they get revenge, right? If they had Trey Lance, do they win this game? First off, you can't say that about, I don't know jack squat about Trey Lance. But what I know is that Kansas City has been here before, and they've done it before. And they've lost here before. So they know what it takes, and they know what happens. They know what it takes to lose as well. And so that's why I'm taking Kansas City to win. Final score prediction, I'll probably go 35. No, I want a field goal in there. I don't want to bet too high. It's a Super Bowl. You always got to bet lower in a Super Bowl. I'll go 34-24. Kansas City will win the Super Bowl. They'll be Super Bowl 57 champs? 56 champs? Yeah. So that's my playoff predictions. Let me know what you think. I think the most divisive rounds in the wild card round are going to be Dallas, Tampa Bay. I think that one's a coin flip. And Jacksonville, the 4-5 matchups. I think the 3-6 matchups for both sides can. Well, no, I think the NFC side is the way more interesting side. But the second round for the AFC is the way more interesting side. So that's my predictions. Let me know what you think. Make sure to like, subscribe for more content as I try to update that. This is more of like a podcast laid back form in terms of my typical episodes, in terms of my video essays. I love doing the video essays, but those take a lot of time. This one's kind of more laid back. This one should be available on all Apple, Spotify, because I've really started, got back into the podcast game. So this is more of a laid back podcast as I try to edit, as I try to upload and just get more podcasts out there, because I think the podcast is a very valuable tool to expand all jacked up as I want to, and hopefully if I get these picks right, it'll expand. So hopefully let me know what you think about my picks in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Anyways, peace.